Hello and welcome class 7. Today we are going to start with another chapter of your civics, that is chapter 5, Women Change the World. We already know that men and women have different roles to play in our society. In this chapter we will study that despite facing discrimination, how some women were able to be at par with men and also encouraged other women and inspired them to be independent. So, to start with, there is an activity. Here's a table given, and there are different categories on the basis of different professions like teacher, farmer, factory workers, nurse, scientist, and pilot. Now, I want to ask students that how many of you see a particular profession as a male profession or a female profession? For example, if you hear a teacher, what comes to your mind, a female or male? I know the majority answer is female image. A farmer, male. Factory worker, male. Nurse, female. Scientist, male. Pilot, male. So out of 6 professions here, only 2, teacher and nurse, we see as female professions. It's not that a male cannot be a teacher or a male cannot be a nurse, but this profession gives us an image. Now there are some questions. Are there more images of men than women? Yes. In what kind of jobs were there more images of men than women? In what kind of jobs? Now see, we said farmer and factory workers are male professions because these works require more physical strength. Okay, so the professions where more physical strength, more manpower is required, we see that profession as a male profession. Have all the nurses been drawn as females? Why? Because females are always been associated with being more patient and gentle. They have the motherly instinct in them, so they can be better nurses. Are there fewer images of female farmers? Yes. Why? Because farming is an activity where you need more of the physical strength to do the work. So, most of the images in farmer are associated as male images. But students, do you know that 83.6% of working women in India are engaged in agricultural work? Their work includes planting, weeding, harvesting and threshing. Yet, when we think of a farmer, we only think of a man. Further, many people believe that women make better nurses because they are more patient and gentle. This is linked to women's role within the family. Similarly, it is believed that science requires a technical mind and girls and women are not capable of dealing with technical things. But these all are the things which are just assumed in the society. And all these beliefs that women are more gentle, they cannot be farmers, they do not have physical strength, they cannot be scientists, they cannot be pilots. No, these all are just beliefs and these are stereotypes. But a stereotype क्या होता है? That a belief that may or may not be true. You have generally heard that girls are not stronger. Okay, men are more stronger than women. But is that really a case nowadays? In almost all fields, women are at par with men. But still these stereotypes prevail in our society. And because of these stereotypes, there are fewer opportunities and rigid expectations from women in our society. In this chapter, we are going to cover the difficulties faced by the women to fight the discrimination against them. fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. Because so many people believe in these stereotypes, many girls do not get the same support that boys do to study and train to become doctors and engineers. Our society supports the education of boys, but many girls do not get the same support. In most families, once the girl finishes school, they are encouraged by their families to see marriage as their main aim in life. Students nowadays are thinking have changed. But here we are talking about the earlier times, near about starting of the 19th century. So at that time, these discriminations were there. It is important to understand that we live in a stereotypical society in which all children face pressures from the world around them. You can link these statements to your own life also. Sometimes these come in form of demands from adults. At other times they can be just because of unfair teasing by your own friends. Boys are pressurized to think about getting a job that will pay a good salary. They are also teased and bullied if they do not behave like other boys. For example, it is generally said to boys that boys do not cry, don't cry like girls. So if somebody does so, he is teased and bullied by others. So here we are going to take one example. It is taken from your NCERT book. Xavier was happy with the result of his class 10 board exams. Though his marks in science and maths were not high, he had done well in his favorite subjects, history and languages. When his parents saw his report card, they did not look happy. My goodness, Xavier, you have managed only 65% in maths and your marks in physics are also less. I know, Mama, but it's okay because I don't want to take maths or science. I want to study history. His father said, why do you want to take history? Think about your future. You have to get a good job. History will not help. It has no scope. But I don't like maths or science. Be sensible, son. Take maths and you can study computer side by side. The job market for computer is very good. You can see here, it is a kind of pressure that the parents are putting on their child. So these are stereotypical thinking that only computers or maths or science can bring good future or it has a good job market. Rather than telling the children that if you have talent, excel in any subject of your choice, then you can get a good job after that. So moving further, learning for change. Children, it is very, very common for you and you think it is extremely important part of your life to go to school. As more and more children enter school every year, we begin to think that it is normal for all children to go to school. And today it is very difficult for us to imagine that somebody is not going to school, whether a girl or a boy. But student, when we talk about the past, the skill of reading and writing was known only to few. As we know that our society was full of stereotypical thinking. So for girls, the situation was worse. In communities that taught only sons to read and write, where daughters were not allowed to learn the alphabet. Even in families where skills like pottery, weaving and craft were taught, the contribution of daughters and women was only seen as supportive. They were never given the main work. It was a dream for girls to learn to read and write. Not allowed. And from the very young age, they had the responsibility of taking care of younger siblings and the domestic chores. In the 19th century, many new ideas about education and learning emerged. Schools became more common and communities that have never learned reading and writing started sending their children to school. As the time passed by, many people started sending their boys to school, but there was a lot of opposition to educating girls even then. Yet, many women and men made efforts to open school for girls, but still women struggle to learn to read and write. So here we are going to study the contribution of some great women who gave others example and encourage other women to read and write and to bring the change in the society. So first among them was Raj Sundari Devi. She was born in West Bengal some 200 years ago. At the age of 60, she wrote her autobiography in Bangla. Autobiography, her own life experiences. Her book titled Amar Jiban is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. She was a housewife from a rich landlord's family. At that time, it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, she would bring bad luck to her husband and become a widow. So children, it was believed that if women studied, then her husband will die. Despite this, she taught herself how to read and write in secret well after her marriage. She was so courageous that she taught herself. We'll study her story. I would start working at dawn and I would still be at it until well beyond midnight. I had no rest in between. I was only 14 years old at that time. I was unlucky in those days women were not educated. She is sharing her experiences. She was only 14 years old and she had to do so much work at home. She's saying herself unlucky because she wanted to study, and in those days they were not allowed to study. Later, I began to resent my own thoughts. What is wrong with me? Women do not read? How will I do it? She started questioning to herself that why she is not studying. Then one day she had a dream. I was reading the manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagavat, the life of a saint. Later in the day, as I sat cooking in the kitchen, I heard my husband say to my eldest son, Bipin, I have left my Chaitanya Bhagavat here. When I asked for it, bring it in. He left the book there and went away. So she had a dream that she was reading a manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagavat. And she found that same book in her house. So what she did, she secretly took out a page and hid it carefully. She was able to hide it, but she didn't know how to read it. So for that, she started taking help of his son's book, who was practicing alphabets at that time. He was so small that he was practicing ABCD alphabets at that time. He took that page and started learning the alphabets, forming the letters, and slowly she started matching the letters with the letters of that novel. She tried to match the words with those that she would hear in the course of her days. With tremendous care and effort, and over a long period of time, she learned how to read. And after learning the alphabet, Raj Sundari Devi was able to read the Chaitanya Bhagavat. Through her own writing, she also gave the world an opportunity to read about women's lives in those days. There were other women like Pandita Ramabai and Rokeya Shakawat Hussain who also contributed and encouraged other women to be independent and to be educated. We'll cover those in next video.